folks. I'm here north of Hodgenville, Kentucky, off 31E at Abraham Lincoln's Boyhood home. Here with Miss Stacy Humphreys and a fella that you may have seen before, President Lincoln. Recently we toured Lincoln's birthplace, and today we're here at the Boyhood home. I think Stacy's gonna give us a little tour. Stacy, we're here at a cabin that looks much like the one that the president would have lived in when he was a boy. Can you
That's right.
tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. This cabin sits here as part of the Boyhood unit of the Knob Creek Farm, as part of the Abraham Lincoln Birthplace National Historical Park. And like the cabin that we saw in the Memorial Building, this cabin is also it's a reconstruction. It is of the time period. We actually got it from a neighbor of the Lincoln family, but it was not the original cabin that the Lincolns would have lived in. But it looks like it would have been, and of similar size to how the Lincolns would have lived.
Sorry to interrupt. These logs that you're looking at are of the period. You can still
Yes.
see the axe marks or adze marks or whatever in there, right?
That's right, you can. So, and I'm sure Mr. Lincoln has some memories of this place as well.
I certainly do. We went to school, Sister Sarah and I, about 2 miles down this road here. We walked to school. And Zachariah Riney and Cato Hazel taught me to read and write, cipher to the rule of three. Call it cipher arithmetic now. And after I learned to read, well, I'd lie in front of that fireplace at night. The fire would create enough light where I could see out and read. And that road there was the Louisville National Turnpike. In my earliest recollection, I could see people of color chained together, called them slaves, walking down that road, taking Nashville to be sold. And had an effect on my life, and I still recall those days. Very, very sad.
Yes, sir. Well, let's go down to Knob Creek and hear some more stories.
Okay.
All right. Stick around, folks.
Well, as I recall, the creek was running bank full. Just been a hard rain. And we had been admonished by our parents, don't go near that creek.
You don't want to miss this. Folks, we're down here at Knob Creek at Abraham Lincoln's Boyhood home. It's chilly right now. The creek is iced over. You all were going to tell us a story, I think, about what happened here one day back a good long time ago.
It was a pretty famous story in the young Abraham Lincoln days, but I tell it a lot, but I think we'd rather hear it from this gentleman.
Well, as I recall, the creek was running bank full. It's been a hard rain. And we had been admonished by our parents, don't go near that creek. And as young lads frequently do, we failed to heed that warning. And Austin and I went up the creek there a short ways, and he said, let's go to the other side. And a tree had fallen down, and he walked across that tree and did not slip and walked right across the other side. So I was not so fortunate. I slipped and fell in the creek. Had it not been for Austin putting out a stick and pulling me in, I would have drowned.
Oh no.
Well, I got across, but then we were on the wrong side of the creek. And it was a nice warm day, much different than today. And I took off my breeches, took off my shirt and let them dry. But we had to get back across that creek. Austin ran back across that log once again, and this time I was more successful, and we didn't tell our parents about that for, well, I never did. I guess they know now.
And Austin was your friend?
Oh yes, Austin Gallagher, yes. We were childhood friends until I left Kentucky.
Well, I'm sure you had many memories of the farm.
Oh, I have many. Perhaps we'll go up here to the the big bottom where we had did all the planting. I'll tell you a little story about that. When we're talking about the creek. One day, I helped plant pumpkin seed, and it was just as dry as it could be down here in the bottom. And that night, a big rain came down the hill and washed away all my pumpkin seeds that I had planted. It didn't rain a drop down here, but on top it rained and washed them all away. Perhaps we'll go see that field.
Yeah, it's still here.
Yeah, they seldom move fields.
Yeah.
We've got more on the way.
When we moved here, I have a lot of memories of this farm. It's here my father taught me to work. He didn't teach me to like it, but he taught me to work.
Stay tuned. So it's absolutely lovely here. You can see the knobs all around us, an appropriately named Knob Creek we were just looking at. We're here in front of this big, long field that appears to be a valley of sorts between the knobs. And this is where the Lincolns did their farming?
It's correct. This is where they would have done their farming, here in this kind of naturally occurring field. And I always like to tell our visitors, when you come out here to Knob Creek, this is probably the most pristine rural or agricultural view that you'll see, just like the Lincolns would have seen when they lived here. They moved here from Sinking Spring Farm due to a land dispute 2 years after Lincoln was born, and then they would live here for 5 years on this farm, and then would have to move on again for another land dispute. Unfortunately for them, the courts did decide in Lincoln's father's favor, but they had already moved on at this point. So I'm sure farming in this valley did present a challenge, just like Mr. Lincoln said when he learned that hard lesson of his pumpkin seeds being washed away. But it would have been a hard life. I mean, they would have grown everything they would have needed to eat, to use here on the farm.
That's right, and we're standing out here very cold today in our significant clothing, and they didn't quite have the clothing, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
They had plenty of wool, but
Sure.
certainly not the interior heating and stuff to keep as toasty as we do. Mr. President, I wonder if you have any memories attached to this field, which you all grew, etc.?
This is that large field I told you where we planted the pumpkin seed. But when we moved here, I have a lot of memories of this farm. It's here my father taught me to work. He didn't teach me to like it, but he taught me to work. And I'd do things like a lad that age would do. I'd fix the firewood, bring in the eggs, kindling, sometimes break an egg, but fetch the water and do chores like that that a child my age would have done. And of course went to school. Enjoyed going to school. Only 2 miles to school. And did a lot of work in these fields. We raised everything we ate came from the field.
Yes, sir. Do you recall having a favorite vegetable that you ate out of these fields?
Oh, I love those green beans.
Yes.
Just love those green beans, yes. And all the food we had came from here, and you learn to enjoy all that food.
So, basically, this field that you're seeing, which is significantly long, I think it's like 150, 200 yards, it's not the end of the property. Stacy, tell the folks when they come here what kind of walking they can do.
Sure, you can do a lot of walking when you come visit us here at Knob Creek. We have this field, of course. There's also 2 other fields behind us, and we keep this walking trail that we're standing in the middle of mowed throughout the season. So you can come take a nice walk. There's a lot of wildlife that live out here that you wouldn't see in town or even at the memorial building and the birthplace site. So you can come take a nice walk around here.
Don't you also have a garden space here during the summer?
We do. It's not, of course, not very attractive and scenic right now, but we do try to maintain a garden space. We plant corn, and then in between the rows of corn, just like Mr. Lincoln said, we do plant pumpkin seeds. So if you come later in the season, you will see corn rows and pumpkin growing in between. And that's a direct reference taken from the story that Mr. Lincoln was fond of telling about Knob Creek Farm.
Mr. President, I don't suppose your family ever squeezed any of that juice out of the corn that you grew to make it more easy for transportation. I'm talking about bourbon whiskey, of course.
My father had some of that, yes. It was a very good bartering. You could barter very well with alcohol.
That's right. You could easier to move a gallon of that stuff through the fields or the woods than a big load of corn, right?
Yeah, certainly.
I know you're a busy man, and we're so happy that you could join us down here back in Kentucky. You're welcome back to the beautiful Commonwealth anytime.
Well, I thank you for the invitation, and I bid you an affectionate farewell. I must get back to the White House. Seward is talking about purchasing something called Alaska, and I'm going to go see about that.
Oh, crazy. I've never heard of such.
Well, nor have I, but he said 2 cents an acre.
Good grief. You go
That
take
sounds like a pretty good price.
it. Sounds like a fair price to me. I think you better go jump on that.
Well, I'm going to meet with Mr. Stewart right now.
Okay,
Thank
sir.
you appreciate you having me here today.
Hey, it's so good to be in your presence. It's kind of a dream of mine to hang out with you.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you, sir. Stay tuned. You
So-
said this was constructed in early 1900s?
Early 1900s.
So at
yes.
that point, some folks probably would have been coming here
And
by
horse
horses.
and carriage.
You don't want to miss this. So folks, the president went back to Washington, D.C., and Stacy and I are left alone at Knob Creek to talk about this tavern here behind us. Just go ahead, Stacy. Tell us
Sure.
about the historical significance of this place.
I wanted to tell you a little bit about the Lincoln Tavern. It's been here on the property for quite some time. It was originally built in the early 1900s, and a local family out of the community decided to build this as a place to kind of take a part of the Lincoln tourism boom. That they realized Hodgenville, the birthplace of this farm, for what it was, so they wanted to encourage people to come here. And people did. People came from all over the country to come see this spot, and in this tavern they could purchase some food, have a nice hot meal, buy some Lincoln souvenirs, and then walk the grounds just like you can today.
You said this was constructed in early 1900s?
Early 1900s.
So at that point, some folks probably would have been coming here
And
by
horse
horses.
and carriage, and then we've seen the early automobiles. In fact, there used to be a couple gas pumps out front. You could refill the gas tank on your car and then continue on down the turnpike.
And you say that there was space in here for people to eat.
To eat, yeah.
well.
Not to say it was never like a hotel type of building, but a place where they could come and eat. And then it was actually privately run and owned and operated until about 2001. And then that's when the Park Service came and we bought the property, and we have a lot of hopes and plans for this place. We're hoping to get the funding to restore it, perhaps one day take it back and turn it into a visitor center so that visitors can once again come back into the Lincoln Tavern.
Well, it's a beautiful property, and since President Lincoln spent more time here than anywhere in Kentucky, it is very significant.
It is.
Yeah?
It is. It's a very special place, and I want to encourage everybody to come out and see us. You can come any time of year. We're the Rangers, we're just not always here. We like to come here in the weekends, in the spring, in the fall, and then we try to staff it as much as we can throughout the summer. So in the warmer months is usually when we get a lot of our visitors, and Rangers are here to talk to them. We can also take them into the cabin as well.
Okay, but if you come in the winter, like right now, then at least you can come, you can see the property, walk back through the fields, take a good
Right.
brisk nature hike,
A brisk nature hike.
see Knob Creek where the president nearly drowned
Right.
as a boy. And as
Exactly.
you said, that creek, when it comes a good rain, the water rushes off the knobs,
That's right.
fills it up, and it can become a little raging
Yes.
creek in a very short amount of time.
It does, and we always encourage people to be careful because it can go from very calm to a raging creek in a matter of minutes. So we always encourage people to be very careful when they come out here, but do come. It's a beautiful, quiet place, especially this time of year.
Stacy, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
You're a treasure for the National Park Service.
Thank you very much.
And I hope you enjoyed here in Kentucky. You're a West Virginian, right?
That's right.
All right. Well, glad to have you here.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
Y'all come get you some Lincoln here in Hodgenville, Kentucky.